Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am your host, Data T, and this is my channel, The Good Guys. Guys, today's story comes out of, and I am doing another story from The Trace. I do believe they are an anti-gun outfit, and so this is why I'm going after them. And the story that they have chosen to report on now is, do armed guards prevent school shootings? Okay, in my opinion, I think this story is to ward off police officers and armed guards in school shootings so that they persist, and so then they get to still attack guns. Okay, and if you think that's sinister, then you wait and see when I talk about the rest of this article. Okay, before we get into it, guys, I will cover it in its entirety, but before I do, okay, you guys feel free to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. Remember, we are on a road to 1,000 subscribers. Okay, and I know we will get there. If you guys could hit me on Twitter, hit me on Minds, and even on TruthSocial, and you guys, we can chat it out, no problem. Okay, so let us begin. And from these two individuals, okay, you have Laura Esposito, right? This person here. This is her Twitter profile. Okay, you guys can see what she looks like, right? She's on Twitter. All right, cool. Then you have Alex Yabon. He is a Team Trace guy, and then he's there, and you can see him there. Okay, just want to point out who these individuals are. Okay, and we'll go and start through it now. Okay, it says here, a reader asks if increasing armed security could reduce deaths from active shootings or deter the attacks in the first place. Now, let's start with here. The story was this was originally posted, guys, in April 2019, and then they updated it. Roughly a third of parents with school-age kids are very extremely worried about gun violence and their child's school, according to a 2022 survey. Let's see what that says here. Okay, so they did a Pew Research study, and I usually do trust the Pew Research, and I could probably agree with all of this that is in here. Okay, and it basically says that parents are afraid of sending their children to school. I think a lot of parents understand this, and there has been a wide pool of children being removed from schools from their parents, whether it be homeschool, whether it be because of this LGBTQ nonsense. Okay, all of it. So I think part of that is the reason why parents are just pulling their children from public education. Okay, big time. Okay, if I have my way, which I know I will, inshallah. Okay, I will not have my child going to public school either. All right, anyway, it says here, and in much of America, the response to school shootings has been to put more guns in school. The same Pew survey found that roughly half U.S. parents think armed security in school is an effective response. Okay, school resource officers, armed guards, I believe it's a good thing. Despite the prominent media coverage of mass shootings and school shootings in particular, they account for 2% of gun deaths. 2%, folks. In 2022, there was a 51 active shootings that caused injury or death, excluding suicides in K-12 schools or in school buses. When we say 2%, that means it is extremely rare. I know these come on television. If you're a parent out there, if you are, mom, I hear you. Trust me. Okay, but they are very rare. Okay, 2% of gun deaths. All right. There are roughly 100,000 public schools in the United States, meaning that these incidents are quite rare. Still, widespread worry fuels an active national debate about how to curb these shootings. A reader wanted to know, how are armed guards, sometimes called school resource officers or school police officers, actually deterrent to gun violence and mass shootings? We found the evidence is limited. Have guns stopped mass shootings at schools? I will tell you, yes, they have. Okay, it says here there are only a handful of documented cases in which an armed security guard or station police officer has stopped a school shooting. A commonly cited example involves a school resource officer who chased a gunman off a high school campus in Dixon, Illinois in May of 2018, then shot and wounded the perpetrator. A recent study by researchers from the Violence Project suggests that armed guards in schools don't reduce fatalities. Really? Let me see here what this says. Okay, so you have one of these, it's a PDF, okay, and it says here, let's look at the results here. The study examined 133 cases of school shootings and attempted school shootings from 1980 to 2019. Please stop. Okay, oh my goodness. Perpetrators ranged from 10 to 53. Only 16 shooters, 11% were 22-year-olds. 94% of perpetrators were current students. I'm trying to read through the minutiae. Here we go. An armed guard was on scene in 23% of the shootings. Based on theory, multiple models include the presence of an armed guard in control regions. And it says here, if the attack was targeted, total number of weapons brought to the scene. The death rate 2 times greater in schools with an armed guard present. Guys, I gotta say, their data, it's very questionable. These people, they did do some of the research here, and it's here. I have not had time to deal with this, but I gotta say, if they say having an armed guard is usually leads to more greater in school, the death rate is actually higher, I question that. And I man, from everything that we've seen now these days, guys, almost everything is biased, and it's very hard to trust everything. But I will give them the benefit of the doubt that they went through this and they did the study. That's very disheartening to hear if that's really true. Okay, and I don't believe so, but I do have to rely on data. So anyway, I may have to come back to that. It says here, at least one armed guard was present in almost a quarter of cases, which is to a 25% statistic that we just saw. It says, in fact, shootings at schools with an armed guard ended with 3 times as many people killed on average whenever firearms are present. There is room for error, and even highly trained officers get split-second decisions wrong, the research wrote. Prior research suggests that many school shooters are actively suicidal, intending to die in the act, so an armed officer may be an incentive rather than a deterrent. Guys, I'm going to say something. What about people who see that a particular school is heavily guarded and they decide not to go? Let me show you something here, okay? Because I don't believe in what this person is saying. It's just what the two of them are saying, okay? Because take a look at this, okay? This shooter for this particular school, he realized that it was fortified and he decided to go somewhere else. Okay, let's hear this. Watch this. This happened in Nashville, Tennessee. Okay.
It was the only school that was targeted. There was another location that was mentioned, but because of a threat assessment by the suspect, too much security, they decided not to. And that area was here in Nashville, so we're continuing with that.
Okay, so you hear that, and I think the more reasonable, even though these mass shooters are definitely messed up, okay, they realize they want to they want as many casualties as they can get. So if they go to a school that's armed, they are realizing that, hey, I may not be able to shoot as many people as I can. Okay. And so this is why we have, things like this, where we have schools, okay, where we have a sign where it says, please be aware that the staff at Ballinger ISD are armed and may use whatever forces necessary to protect our students and staff. I think every school in America should have this sign. Okay. And I think and me personally, I believe if you're a teacher and you want to have a gun, you should have it while you are on property. And I'm going to tell you something else. I know this may sound controversial, but if the parents are at the age, or and parents make this decision, if they have said to their child, listen, I don't want you bringing these guns to school, but I'm going to tell you, if these people are not willing to protect you, I want you to protect yourself. And then you give then that comes to the point of you will give your child a firearm to protect himself, right? 16 years old. I don't have a problem doing that, but I'm going to tell you something. If that's the case and I have to give my child a firearm to go to that school, I wouldn't even send them there. Okay? So arming children, I think, is out of the picture, even though I am for it. If I feel that person needs a gun to go to school, I'm not sending them there. I'll homeschool them. And that's what parents are doing. Okay, let's get back to this, guys. Okay, it says here, as we were going through it, it says a 2013, and I am skipping a little bit here, sorry about that. It says here, a 2013 study conducted by the FBI analyzing 160 active shooter incidents found that most attacks are carried out in a matter of minutes, making it difficult for armed guards to be in the right place at the right time. Well, if somebody's upstairs shooting and the guy is downstairs, okay, obviously it's going to take some time for him to get there, right? It says here, even when law enforcement was present or able to respond within minutes, civilians often had to make life and death decisions. And if we know this, why can't they be armed? And therefore should be engaged in training and discussions on decisions that may face, researchers wrote. For mass shootings more broadly, there's evidence that unarmed bystanders have stopped more attacks in these early minutes than armed people. I think that's bullshit. Researchers from Alert analyzed 249 shootings from 2000 to 21 that ended before police arrived. Most ended with the shooter fleeing the scene or dying by suicide, but bystanders subdued the shooter without guns nearly twice as often in 42 cases as bystanders who shot them. So let's do this. Because this sounds like to me that, you know what, the mass shooting problem is taken care of, right? If we have data that suggests that all of these mass shootings, the bystanders subdue the shooter without guns rather than with guns, 42 to 22. What is the issue? Really, what is the issue? We have people who are shooting into these schools. Why not highlight them? Why not highlight that, hey guys, these guys will be fine. They'll be fine, because most of these shootings, we see that even when you're unarmed, they're able to subdue the teacher, the student, or the whoever is going to shoot up the place. So you know what? There's really no issue. It's being taken care of. It's bullshit. Okay, it's bullshit. I mean, this is what we are led to believe. Let's look at this. 249 shootings. Let's see who did this. By Larry Buchanan and Lauren Leatherby. We can't do this. We can't see it because it's behind the paywall. Okay, by the New York Times. All right. Nobody reads their paper anyway, so Anyway, so let's see the rest here. It says, in several notable instances, unarmed bystanders have successfully ended school shootings. And an Indiana teacher stopped a student from firing a handgun in 2008 by throwing a basketball at him, then retrieving the gun. In 2021, after a teacher in Idaho took a gun from the 6th grade girl, she pulled the student into a hug. Guys, these are all, you know what these are? These are kumbaya stories to tell you that you don't need a gun. And in reality, we know the real issue that, hey, we need the guns in the schools and we need the police officers just in case any of these jokers show up. Okay? And we should put more than one guy there. It should be multiple guys. All right? If anything, you put one on every floor and one in every corner. If we could. And why couldn't we? Why shouldn't we? There are children. Look at this. It says, there tends to be the perception that the most effective solutions are the ones we can see, said Jacqueline Schildkraut, the executive director of the Regional Gun Violence Research Consortium at the Rockefeller Institute of Government. But we don't have any data to suggest that more than one person pulling a firearm in the middle of a shooting is going to be somehow any less bad or stop that completely. So one person. Right? Maybe we should put more than one person. Guys, I'm going to play a video, okay? And this came from YouTube, all right? This was by a podcast by these guys individuals. I'm going to show you this to you, okay? Let me go back and scroll through it because I don't want to go through the whole thing. Okay, but these guys, the Carter family. Okay, I like that these are some black guys that become I'm not gonna mince my words. I believe they are conservative. I believe they've woken up to the fact that, you know what, the Democrats are not helping anybody. That's what I do believe about them. And they interviewed Vivek Ramaswamy, and I like this guy. I like him so much. Okay. Even though I don't think he will be president, I believe he is the president that we need. Okay. But Trump is the guy we want. Okay. I firmly believe that. But listen to what he has to say about schools. Okay.
I think it's unconscionable that we as parents now have to think, a lot of us across the country, about that risk when we send our kids to schools. And so what I've said is, I have a separate plan to shut down the U.S. Department of Education, which has been a national disaster. But for less than 25% of that budget, we could actually put 3 armed security guards in every school across this country. And to me, it's not even close, which is a better use of funds. And so that's something that I think is an important way to address this in the school shooting setting as well.
Now you heard that, right? For $80 billion in terms of their budget, take 20% of that, 23 or 25, okay? You got some odd billions there, okay? And we already know, okay, there's about 100,000 public schools in the United States, okay? And we divvy that money up and we put 3 or 4 guards in every school. Why can't we do that? I'm going to tell you, if you look at the politicians and when their children go to school, they have Secret Service detail, they have armed security guards, they got personal protective service agents. These are the private guys, okay, that come in and help, all right? They get protected all the time. And guess what? Those guys are protected with guns. So why can't the normal child who's going to a public school, probably a public school that they can't get out of because they're trapped in a zip code, okay? They can't go to the school that maybe their parents want them to go to. Or in some cases, guys, there are children out there that research schools and say, oh, I want to go to this one because they do this here and they learn about, I don't know, artificial intelligence, or they do they have a a computer programming, or they have a very good math apparatus, and they say, hey, look, we want to go here, but guess what? They're trapped in the zip code that they live in, or they don't have enough money. So we're getting off topic a little bit, but guess what? Why can't we protect these children in these schools with guns? Okay, it is unconscionable. I think it's very bad. And so let's go to the rest of this article. It says here, how many schools have armed adults on the campus? Guns in schools are fact of life for millions of American children. Among 83,000 schools that responded to the National Center for Education Statistics questionnaire, more than 50% said at least one sworn law enforcement officer routinely carried a firearm in school during the 2019-2020 school year. Okay? At least 50%. I don't think that's, that's not bad. But guess what? What about the other 40,000 schools? All right? They should be talking about them. It's important to note that the individual states define these officers' duties differently, with variations in what they called training requirements and even whether they were allowed to carry firearms. This particular survey asked about career sworn law enforcement officers with arrest authority who have specialized training and are assigned to work in collaboration with school organizations. The total doesn't include schools that might employ armed private security or allow teachers and administrators to carry guns on campus. Arming teachers is relatively popular idea. 2022 poll conducted by Phi Delta Kappa International, a professional organization for educators, found that among 1,000 adults surveyed, 45% said they supported arming teachers. So we got almost half, of these people saying, you know what, we should arm the teachers. I think that says a lot. It says here, but teachers tend to feel differently. A recent survey by the Rand Corporation found that 54% of K-12 educators believe that arming teachers would make students less safe, while 20% think the opposite. There was a very there was an interview that was done by Bill Maher one time, and he said, hey, let's arm the teachers. Well, no, because they're teachers, and everybody clapped, and to me it was a bunch of bullshit. Boss man, if you have heard some of these stories where these teachers were in the classroom when they were getting shot up, and some of these teachers selflessly used their body to protect children, why in God's name shouldn't, if they're willing to do that, wouldn't they be willing to shoot a person that comes in trying to kill the very children you're teaching? If you can't fathom that, bossman, you're not honestly thinking intellectually. Okay? People have a soft spot for children, okay? Especially, I would say even men and women across the board, okay? Men somewhat, not so much sometimes men, because especially when it comes to women and girls, we don't want to step in. We don't want to be seen as child molesters. So, sometimes we won't step in. But man, if there's a case where somebody is abusing a child, somebody's trying to kill a child, putting a gun towards him, if you are a decent human being, you are going to stop that person. It's one thing if they're an adult. It's one thing if they're a woman, an adult woman, but a child, whether it be a boy or girl, I think most people will step in. Okay? And that includes these teachers. All right? It says here, what about gun-free zones? It's an axiom of the pro-gun movement that mass shooters target gun-free zones. Well, they do. According to that logic, the presence of armed guards should deter shooters. Former President Donald Trump embraced that reason in a post-Parkland statement on school safety. However, research by Professor Luis Calvaros of Teachers College suggests there is little evidence that active shooters favor gun-free zones. Little evidence? Little evidence. Let me show you something which you probably already saw, okay? Little evidence? Look at this. This is from the crimeresearch.org. Mass public shootings keep occurring in gun-free zone. 94% of attacks since 1950 are in gun-free zones from 1950 to 2019. Are you going to tell me, Mr. Professor, that they don't happen there? This man is a foolish. He doesn't even deserve the title to be called a professor. Okay, he doesn't deserve it. He has the nerve to say that little evidence. He's an idiot. He doesn't belong in a school. Anyway, let's move on. It says Calvaros analyzed 111 shooting attacks between 1965 and 2015 for his book Rampage Nation. He found that only 18 took place in areas where firearms were banned. Boss man, okay, so I guess he didn't start early enough and he didn't go to 2019, so maybe that's the reason why. But oh my goodness, what an absolute moron this professor is. Okay, holy shit. Furthermore, the record doesn't support the deterrence theory, as gunmen have often targeted schools with armed guards who have failed to stop the gunmen from killing in several high-profile shootings over the past 5 years. This group includes those that occurred at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and Santa Fe High School in Santa Fe, Texas. Guys, if you are a mass shooter and you see this sign, are you really gonna go in there and shoot the place up? I think it's a basic human desire to want to live and prosper. And even if you are going to go and try to take some lives, you're still worried about yours. Even if you want to die by suicide, you're going to be like, these guys may stop me before I even get in the building. So you don't go there. You go to places where it says, hey, this is a gun-free zone. Fuck, bro. Okay? Anyway. Whoo! What effects do school security officers have on students? Most guards will never encounter an active shooter, but they may carry guns around students every day on the job. Students don't necessarily feel comforted by the police or other armed security. Instead, some have said they feel surveilled, particularly black and brown children, because usually they're probably doing something wrong, right? Anyway, that's my opinion. You don't have to share it. The National Association of School Psychologists argued that like violence itself, the fear that results can harm the learning process. I think kids are a lot smarter than this article gives them credit for, because if you're a child and you're going to school and you got the simple device of a phone and you realize there's school shootings happening as much as they advertise it in the news, you would say, my school has metal detectors. My school has an armed guard in almost every corner. They're not getting in here. I think they would feel very safe. And I think their opinions would change from being surveilled to actually being protected. That's a bullshit right there. My goodness. One 2011 study concluded that as schools increasingly rely on police for security, administrators refer more students to law enforcement for non-violent infractions. Well, I think this is a good thing. Let's say they're bullying, or let's say they're doing something stupid, and we bring a resource officer, and he's got his gun and badge and uniform in there, and he threatens them and says, "Hey, look, you want to end up on the wrong side of the law?" I think that's fine. I think, why not do that? I think that's a great way to instill discipline in the school. Anyway, a 2021 study, researchers at Sun Albany and Rand, indicates that the presence of guards actually marginally increases the likelihood of a school shooting. Whoo! Holy smokes, they really stepped in it. Let me see if that is what evidence they have there. This is something that we would have to read. Well, I'll tell you what. How many mass shootings have we seen? And out of the shootings, let's say from 1950 to 2019, or whatever we have, because guys, we have cases of mass shootings, okay? And we got citizens who have stopped them. And are you telling me, and I want to know the percentage, I really do, and I'm going to have to go back and read this, but out of all of these shootings, look at this, guys. Look at this. There are so many mass shootings, whatever they may be, and even the ones that happen in schools, guys, okay? There are so many here. I will leave the link in the description, but let me ask you something. Out of all those mass shootings that happen in schools, are you telling me they are provoked by the armed police officer in the school? I really need to see the data on that. And I cannot. That does not make any sense to me whatsoever. But we'll have to read that study. Okay. It says here, the criminalization of school misconduct is particularly problematic when applied to black students, given the stark existing racial disparities and arrest incarceration. Guys, it's mostly the black guys, the black kids that are cutting up in schools. I'm telling you. Okay. I would prefer them not to show up at all. But I'm going to tell you, from my point of view, when I was in high school, it was always them, the ones that are cutting up in class, fighting all the time. It was majority black kids. I'm sorry, it's the truth. That's why I'm telling you guys, this may sound racist, but if I go to a school and I see that they're majority black, if they're not in uniform, if this is not a Christian school, whatever it may be, and I see them and the vast majority of them are wearing Jordans, I'm not taking my child there. I would not do it. Okay? I'm going to ask him, hey, when's the last riot you had? Or hey, when's the last school fight you had? I remember that school where, man, maybe I should look it up, where they were having a fight every day in that school. And it wasn't until the fathers came there and said, you guys got to cut this nonsense out. And they were able to stop it. It was a fantastic sight. I wish I could pull it up. Let me see. This is something that I wanted to pull up and show you guys, but let me see if I can pull this up. The fathers came to the school, okay, and they stopped all that nonsense.
Introducing the Ungun, the non-lethal.
Let's stop that, okay? Let's see. Fathers show up to school. Let me see. Here it is. It's this one here. Dads help curb violence in Louisiana high school. It was a fantastic story. Okay, we can't play it all here, but I'll leave the
when the SOS went up at a troubled school.
I'll leave the description here so you guys can go and see it. But these dads here showed up, and they effectively ended all the fighting in the school. Okay, it's a fantastic story. Okay. I'm going to, I'll definitely leave it in the description. You guys can go and check it out. Okay. Anyway,
more students and
let's go back to this. It says here, guys, police in schools may also end up using force against students. An investigation by Huffington Post found that September 2011 to September 2018, school-based policy officers used tasers or stun guns on students at least 120 times. If they're getting out of order, why not? Because the last thing you want to hear, if you're a single mom or you got your badass children going to school, the last thing you want to hear is they are getting whooping from the police officer. You don't want to see that. You don't want to hear that, but still they're acting up in class, right? They really should just bring whoopings back. They really should. Okay, I don't mind it. I wouldn't mind if my child is genuinely acting up. I would want to be the one to discipline them. But let me tell you, if they can put it online, make the channel encrypted and say, hey, look, your child did this and they're being disciplined. I may say, you know what? Okay. After you get that whooping from the teacher, when you get home, you're going to get one too. Okay. I'm a little old school. I remember the days when I had that happen to me. So, anyway, let's move on. It says here, when you have proper vetting and you have the right people in place, security, police, whatever, you categorize them as whatever their role is, can build really great relationships with students. Jacqueline Schildkrut of the Rockefeller Institute of Government said, but unfortunately, not every person who wears a badge or carries a gun belongs to the school. Okay? Who pays for the armed guards in schools? There's no federal law that mandates armed guards in public or private school. 2013 study from the Cleveland State University estimated that putting an armed officer in each public-private school in America would cost around 10 to 13 billion annually. Now, folks, we just saw that interview with Vivek and the Carter family. If you shut down the Department of Education, $80 billion, you take 20% of that should cover this. And guess what? I wouldn't have a problem with that, right? We don't need the Department of Education. Parents should be educating their children, or at the very least be able to decide which school their children go to. And that is a fantastic idea. I wish that happens. Anyway, let's move on. Some states have passed their own legislation after a gunman killed 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults in a private school in Nashville. That's the story we saw. State lawmakers passed a bill focused on school safety, and Governor Bill Lee amended his budget proposal, setting aside $140 million to place an armed security guard at every school. So this guy, Governor Bill Lee, good job, sir. He laid aside some money to do that. Thank goodness. Okay, I think he should have put more money there, but hey, something is better than nothing. All right. In June 2023, a year after the mass shooting in Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, Governor Greg Abbott signed into law legislation that would station at least one on every school campus, which some estimate cost schools up to $100,000 for each officer employed. You know what? Why not? And I tell you what, they should pay that police officer $100,000 to be stationed in that school. Okay, I believe they should do that. On the federal level, Tennessee's U.S. Senators Marsh Blackburn and Bill Hagerty introduced a bill in late March 2023 that would provide $900 million in grants to schools that hire more school security personnel. If passed, the law would let states decide whether to arm officers. This is awesome. This is good. Tennessee, they get it. They understand. Okay? It says here, what alternative policies have been shown to make schools safer? Experts suggest focusing on physical building security. You know what? Let me play this for you, because this was something that I did want to play. Okay? And Vince Vaughn, okay, is an actor, and he said this a while back. Okay? It says 8 years ago, but look at what he said. This is an actor.
Actor Vince Vaughn is sounding off on gun control, saying firearms should be allowed in schools. In an interview with British GQ, Vaughn said he supports people having a gun in public, full stop. He went on to say the reason mass shootings occur at schools is because shooters know there are no guns there. On whether guns should be allowed in schools, Vaughn says, quote, "Of course. You think the politicians that run my country and your country don't have guns in the schools their kids go to? They do, and we should be allowed the same rights. Banning guns is like banning forks in an attempt to stop making people fat."
Hear, hear. Hear, hear for Vince Vaughn. Okay? That's why I like this guy. Okay? That's part of the reason why. Sometimes he does make some funny stuff. But, hear, hear, sir. We appreciate what you just said. Okay? Anyway, it says here, experts suggest focusing on physical building security. No, we should focus on firearms. Okay? Yes, physical building security is part of that, but there should be guns. It says notes that there's only 3 school shootings at Red Lake Senior High School in Minnesota, Plate Canyon High School in Colorado, and Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. Students were killed behind a locked classroom door. While the debate over approaches to school safety can be polarized, there's broad public support for drills, training, and school hardening, which involves physical updates that make school buildings more difficult to enter. This is that whole bullshit where they say, oh, our schools shouldn't be prisons. No, boss. That's so people don't get out. Okay? This is so people don't get in. Are you an idiot? Okay? Other experts have argued that schools would be better served by federal and state gun reform. No. In the meantime, they encourage schools to invest in more holistic preventive measures, including mental health training and resources, anti-bullying or social inclusion campaigns, and better threat assessments to each or to catch or mitigate the warning signs that often presage a mass shooting. This is some bullshit. I don't even like this. Man, this last paragraph is horrible. Holistic approach. What is holistic? What's more holistic than getting your own gun, right? Oh, man. I tell you what, man. These people at the Trace, they really... Man, these guys, they don't sleep, man. They don't sleep. And they keep coming with this garbage. They just keep attacking. They keep poking. And they don't let up. This is why we can't either. Oh my God. I know you guys and even myself, maybe you lost and gained some brain cells at the same time, right? Hopefully gained more brain cells than lost. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to highlight this story. So in my reading of this article, I'm going to say, do armed guards prevent school shootings? In my opinion, I will say yes. And it's not just armed guards, okay? You have also armed teachers, okay? In some cases, you will have private security. Definitely we harden the schools, make it more difficult to enter, all those things. And I think we will have a very good solution, along with more money, along with more guards. Well, schools, in my opinion, should be the most secure environment in the country. But they're not. And that tells you where a lot of people's priorities are. And their priorities should be on children. Anyway, guys, you guys know what I say at the end of these videos, and I always mean it, okay? But guys, good guys carry guns, okay? Good people carry guns. Good people who want to protect children carry guns. There is no other alternative. That's why you see people's Secret Service, personal protective agents, law enforcement, they all have guns. There's a reason. So why can't the general public and those children who their parents are not politicians, why can they not be also protected in the very same manner as all these other people? Why? It's a shame and it's a tragedy. It's terrible. So, my belief is everybody, good people, should have guns. Good people should always have guns, guys. Because if good men do nothing, there will be no good guys.